Good Wednesday evening, Midlands. I'm Chief Meteorologist Efren Infante with your Wednesday night, September 28th Hurricane Ian update. The last information we got from the National Hurricane Center, as of 7 p.m., well, winds were sustained at 125 miles an hour and already had made landfall at about 4:35 this afternoon, just to the south of Punta Gorda, just south of Tampa and north of Fort Myers, in the area of Pirate Harbor. Still moving to the north-northeast at 8 miles an hour on land right now, 25 miles northeast of Punta Gorda. The pressure has been gone up to 955, which is still a very strong Category 3 hurricane. Although it is on land and a lot of the rainfall from radar is indicating pockets of not that much rainfall on the eastern and southern flank, there's no doubt it is still a very powerful hurricane because there's a well-defined eye, a lot of circulation clouds around it, and all of that is covering good 2/3 of the peninsula of Florida. Now, all indications at this point from the National Hurricane Center, it's going to stay in Florida on land for at least 24 hours. So by tomorrow afternoon, it'll start coming out of the eastern portions of Florida into the Atlantic, somewhere around Daytona Beach. Estimated winds to about 65 miles an hour. That makes it a tropical storm, but it's still a strong tropical storm. And at least their computer models are indicating that through the day on Thursday into Friday afternoon, it will stay in the Atlantic. No strengthening, but no weakening, as it still will have 65 mile an hour estimated sustained winds. From that point, Friday afternoon to Friday night, it makes landfall somewhere in Georgia or South Carolina's coastline, and it goes right up through the Palmetto State heading into North Carolina. The indicators right now from the National Hurricane Center is that it'll still be a tropical storm potential as it gets towards the low country, but still is a tropical storm by Saturday early morning, positioned somewhere in the heart of the Midlands until it continues heading north, turning into a post-tropical low. But because of the fact that the National Hurricane Center does have that, even though the computer models at this point are all over the map, some of them stay inland and then traverse up to the west side of South Carolina. Some are briefly off the coast, but then move right into the middle of South Carolina. A few others, like the European model that has been doing better over the last at least 36 hours, now has it off the coast and not actually coming onshore until it gets into the areas from, say, Charleston all the way up to the Grand Strand. Still have a lot of uncertainty, but the one thing we know, regardless of whether the trajectory is left or right down the middle, it will be impacting South Carolina and especially the Midlands weather starting Friday right through the weekend. What are we anticipating? Well, the National Hurricane Center has already issued a tropical storm watch. This covers 2/3 of South Carolina, all of the Midlands. In addition, they do have a tropical storm warning in effect from the Grand Strand, coastal inland, all the way down to the low country and coastal inland. In addition to that, they also have a hurricane watch in effect from Charleston all the way down to Jasper and Hampton County. So not only are they anticipating tropical storm force winds along the coastline of the Palmetto State, but there is a possibility, at least by the watch, that there could be hurricane force winds. Tropical force winds are 40 miles per hour or greater. Hurricane force winds are 74 miles per hour or greater. What are we looking at as far as timing? The earliest timing for the tropical storm winds, so that potential of 40+ mile an hour sustained continual winds, is a little bit more prevalent along the low country, especially along the coast. A 40 to 50% chance. It drops to 30 to 40 when we get into most of our Midland communities, and then drops to 20 to 30% in the northern and western portions of the Midlands, and of course, a lesser chance as you go into the upstate and then into North Carolina. What does this specifically mean? Well, as far as the chance, this is the chance of us having 40 mile an hour sustained winds, tropical force winds. Well, you can see that we're pretty much in the 20 to 40 range, but in the western portions of the Midlands, it's a lesser chance, no greater than 30. In most of the Midlands, south and east of I-20, well, we're looking at maybe a 30 to 35% chance. And then especially in the areas along I-95 and east of there, possibly up to a 40% chance, so 35 to 40. It's not a great chance, but at least we know that the winds will be gusting at least 25 to 35 on the onset as we continue watching Ian move inland as we go into Friday. As far as the rainfall, there is on Friday along I-95, pretty much from the PD through the eastern and southern Midlands down to the central Savannah River area, a chance that we could see some heavy rainfall that could lead to flash flooding. There is a better chance, though, for the Grand Strand and all the way down to the low country and into the coastal inland. Now on Saturday, that completely changes. There is a greater risk for very heavy rainfall with potential flash flooding in the eastern, central, southern Midlands, extending all the way down to the Grand Strand and the low country. There's still a slight risk for a heavy rainfall for the rest of our Midland communities and for that matter for the rest of South Carolina. How much rain are we talking about? Well, the rain will start in the low country Thursday evening and then by Thursday late night start moving into the Midlands. All of this will progress from the south heading north. Conservatively, most of the computer models are indicating that, especially from the Weather Prediction Center, that most areas in South Carolina could receive anywhere from 4 to 7 inches of rainfall on the high end. Some locations in the Palmetto State that could be part of the Midlands, especially in the southern and eastern portions, isolated up to 8 inches of rainfall, and that is spread out over more or less a 2-day period. There's also the possibility of severe weather. Now, we may have, and especially with tropical complexes, there's a chance that we could see, it's a marginal risk, but it's a 1 out of 5 risk of tornadic activity, primarily along the entire South Carolina coastline. But it wouldn't be out of the question if this extends a little bit closer to I-95 as we get closer to the weekend. Now, this is what we are looking at as far as confidence. There is growing confidence that we are going to have an impact to our weather, not only for the Midlands, but pretty much a good portion of South Carolina. It is an elevated and medium confidence, but again, the key thing is that we first were confident that Ian was going to make landfall as a strong hurricane. Now the question is where and when at that point Tropical Storm Ian will be that will affect our weather as we go into the weekend. The take-home messages are simply this. For the Midlands, we've got a tropical storm watch in effect through Saturday night for our Midland communities. The potential of tropical storm force sustained winds of 40 miles or greater. We also have a significant risk for heavy rainfall in which we're looking at, by the time this is done Saturday night, localized in the Midlands could get up to 8 inches. The average, though, could be between 4 and 7. And then finally, the possibility of tropical tornadic activity along the coastline as we get into Saturday. Now we're going to continue monitoring Hurricane Ian and especially the trajectory and track for South Carolina and what impact it could be in the Midlands. We will have an update on the graphics and all of the information on the impacting weather. That comes up just before 11 o'clock from the National Hurricane Center, and we will have that update on News 19 when you join us at 11 o'clock tonight. I'm Chief Meteorologist Efren Afonte with your update on Hurricane Ian.